I recently released a video on Echoes of Wisdom, the last major entry into the Zelda series, and I realized I have left some noteworthy details out. If you haven't seen that video, it will obviously give important context for this one, and there should be a link on screen, but I will do my best to keep things brief. I don't want to make a habit of making addendums to my essays, but I fear in order to move on, I must. First, I'd like to thank everyone for their insightful comments. It's been a hoot seeing all these differing opinions on the game. I like it. I would like to thank @Congra for their insightful comment that reminded me of the automatons. The automatons were a type of summonable creature introduced late into Echo's campaign, and I forgot about them almost immediately after their introduction in both of my playthroughs. I didn't even mention them in my video. Their implementation dovetails nicely with a big problem I had with how the Echo system itself was implemented. Starting with Ocarina, having 3 programmable slots for your tools was the standard. This did wonders to stop the back and forth menuing that could plague earlier Zeldas. But Echoes has 1. Now, while I understand that these buttons in Echoes were being used for Tri and his lock-on magic, the D-pad remains half empty for half of the game until we get the automatons. This is primo Monday morning quarterbacking here, but why? Why waste such limited button space on the automatons? The automatons operate as slightly more powerful echoes that take precious time to wind up, and, disturbingly, they break, Breath of the Wild style. And you have to go back to an NPC to have them fixed. This assures me that me, and I am confident in assuming many other players, would never use this feature. So why waste a precious button on it? This leaves the down button on the D-pad completely unused. Why weren't my favorite echoes here? Why were they instead in a somewhat awkward secondary sorting page? Why wasn't Tri's follow command here so I could have a much-needed second echo slot? I don't know, I'm just a guy who's played the game, and I'm obviously not a game designer. It just feels like these are second draft problems. The automatons themselves seem like vestigial holdovers from when the game was being developed as an edit dungeon. I can only really imagine the purpose of their pros and cons if they were meant for some sort of player versus player gameplay. I'm actually kind of convinced of this too, with how they are sort of given to you with a shrug in the second act by the guy who ran the actual edit dungeon in the Link's Awakening remake. Secondly, I made an error. I said that Conde was disconnected from the rest of the narrative, but this simply isn't true. Like Darstan, there's a through line of deceased parents. A through line that includes our very own Princess Zelda. I always forget about the dead mom in the room. She's often just a brief mention, a portrait or rumor for the more observant players, but it's true that Hyrule never seems to have a queen. This seems to be the case in Echoes as well, and I'm actually shocked that this game in particular has nothing to say about it. And that I didn't even clock it while writing a 40-minute review of the game. Like, please, if I'm wrong and have just missed some dialogue, let me know, but her mother isn't mentioned once in the script. I think this actually could work as an unintentional statement on loss, its unspoken presence marking the story in a truly eerie way once noticed, but I fear that this may be doing narrative legwork for a game that simply hasn't earned it. Lastly, the holes! This game almost did some brilliant contextualization for the bottomless pits that have ever dotted the lands of Hyrule. It's easy to understand them as gameplay contrivances, the little marks of landscaping for a world that must also operate as a level, but it almost seems like that's what Null's explaining, this living phenomenon that eats at the fabric of the world. But while that feels really good, like a fun, clever version of that tired trope of explaining that which didn't need explaining, there are the typical kind of bottomless pits in this game, and they look very different from the holes that Null creates. This is nearing paranoid levels of dot connection, and I'm not faulting the game for not delivering on a headcanon that I made up for it, but it feels weird. It feels like that's what they were going for, but didn't stick the landing. I don't know, does anyone know what I mean? Does that make sense? Anyways, gosh, I guess that's really it. I mean it this time. I'm not going to think about Echoes of Wisdom anymore. I'm still working hard on a Deltarune video. Gosh, have you guys played this game? It's like crazy, bro. Anyways, I don't think this one's even long enough that I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe. I mean, unless you do like it, and you do subscribe it.